Hari Om. Good evening, friends. I would like to just do some loud thinking upon uh, what uh, Nagarajan has just uh, started the topic of discussion. It's a very interesting topic, and I agree with that perspective. And would like to add a few more points on that based on what the conversation that has been happening in this group for some time. And my reflections of that, which was also one of the questions of Nagarajan, and based on some earlier uh, voice discussion um, that happened, and I was just a silent listener. So basically, for me, a darshana, even going by the very meaning of it or the very literal meaning of it, as a perspectual, or it's a perspective. It is an aspect of a perspective. That means it is actually how uh, one looks at something and derives its derives his viewpoints around that. It's more like how it appears to me, or how it appears to me looks more like from a layman's point of view. But how it gets revealed to me is from uh, a higher realm point of view, wherein the greater truth reveals itself as a darshana to the rishi. Okay, so a darshana is actually a perspective or a revelation. Perspective is from the side of the person who's viewing it, and as a revelation from the side of the person who's revealing it, or the God or Brahman or the greater truth is revealing an aspect of itself. So the highest truth, in my opinion, is infinitely multivalent, right? It is a singularity, yet it is an infinitely multivalent. That is what I feel. It is not a monistic idea. It is not a Boolean one. It is an infinite. When I say infinity, infinity has all the numbers included in it. Every number is forming part of that infinity. So whether it is an infinitesimal number or the highest infinity, it is a singularity yet. Okay, it is singularity yet it is multivalent, because every number forms part of the infinity. That is the Purnamadam, Purnamida, Purnamasya, Purnamadaya. That mantra says that. We all are aware of that mantra. So everything is infinite, right? So whatever I take from infinite, which we call it as finite, is also technically infinite, because if we take a number also, if we take any number 23, that number 23, for example, though it looks like a finite number, actually is an infinite number, because if you take 23 and put it in a number line, and between 1, 2, 3, and 4, etc., and extend it to as a number line, between 22 and 23, there are infinite points or infinite divisions that we can build, right, between the number 22 and 23. Similarly, between 21 and 22. Similarly, between 19 and 20. So if you put it mathematically, take a line, draw, and start dividing it into smaller units. So each unit you call it as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. If you take a line segment and start breaking it, okay, and within that one unit of thing, we can again further break it. Okay, so this is what mathematics is telling us, how these numbers are are just one whole with multiple parts. We can keep on dividing, so we can create a decimal number, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, then 1.2 and 1.3. Again, we can break it 1.2.1, 1.2.2, 1.2.3 up to infinity before it gets to 1.3. So 1.2.1 and 1.2.2, again we can 1.2.1, 0.2 or zero point 0.3, like that we can. So that is why for me infinity is a multivalent singularity. So that multivalent singularity of truth reveals itself in parts. Because why it's revealed in part, the from the viewer's perspective, he has focus, or from his frame of reference, he can see only one aspect of that reality. That is that darshana. So he sees from one angle. So Advaita is one angle of that. And within Advaita, we have Kevala Advaita, we have Vishishta Advaita, we have Vishesha Advaita. So there are multiple ways of Advaita. We have Paramadvaita, we have Shuddha Advaita, each of them saying that it is Advaita, and each of them saying that it this is how the ultimate reality as ultimate singularity is. So the whole concept of darshana itself is a view. It is a perspective. It's a view. From a relativistic point of view, it is again a relative frame of reference, right? If you go to Einstein's theory of relativity, it all boils down to, from a frame of reference, this phenomena looks like this. Okay, from a different frame of reference, it looks slightly different. Okay, so the same speed of light, right? Or when two objects are moving into in a specific velocity, somebody who's looking at it from inside that vehicle does not see the speed of the vehicle as much as somebody who's outside that vehicle and sees it, right? So a person standing in the platform and seeing a train moving fast observes the speed very differently from the person sitting inside the say Vande Bharat or any bullet train, and seeing how the people around him seated in the same train or same bogie are traveling. There he doesn't see the same speed, right? It's all relative. That is what Einstein's theory of relativity says. So it all depends on from which framework or which frame of reference one sees it. So darshana also for me is something like that, where each one sees it from a different perspective. Okay, and this concept is not new. Even before Einstein came with this relativity theory, it is all part of the Jainist philosophy. So somebody may not agree what Jainism says, but the point that I appreciate with Jainism is various doctrines, and one of them relevant to our topic here is the concept of Aneka Antavada. So where it says that every perspective is true from that perspective's relative frame of reference. Aneka Antavada. So Aneka Antam is there. It is not just Eka Antam. There is only not one end, because infinity has multiple ends. So we are talking about a grand infinity, which is Brahman, which is the Parabrahman, which is infinitely expressible into different forms. So each darshana is a perspective of that absolute truth from a different angle. Okay, we do accept it. Advaitans, for example, even within Advaita Vedanta of Shankara, we say that the different branches of Kevala Advaitavada, like the Ajativada, or the Bhamati school, or the Vivarna school. Okay, so Avichedavada, or the Abhasavada, or the Pratibhimbavada, or the Drishti Srishtivada, or the Srishti Drishtivada. All these Advaitins accept that they are all different prakriyas, but again they keep debating about this prakriya is better, that prakriya is better, and this acharya has explained it more better. And while those acharyas, even within the Advaita itself, haven't understood Shankara, and then we start creating that as a Shankarite. So as a Shankarite, other acharyas who are not have not understood Shankara, except for say Sureshwaracharya, or except for SSS. Okay, from 2000 years of Adi Shankara, we say SSS, I mean Sureshwaracharya has understood Shankara, and after that there's a big vacuum. So many acharyas are there, but none of them understood them, and suddenly SSS came and he understood, and whoever agrees with the SSS, then they are all agreed, they are all understood. Okay, so in the lineage of 2000 years plus, we identify some 2-3 people, or 2-3, or say less than 10 people, or whatever that number is, and then we say only those people who align to those specific thoughts are are basically the real followers of Shankara, or they are in line what Shankara is, right? So I personally disagree with that concept, because Adi Shankara itself, if you take threshold of Adi Shankara, so Adi Shankara, what Adi Shankara says is the ultimatum. That's why I want to be a Shankarite. Adi Shankara itself picks up from a larger corpus of the Upanishads, and the Veda Samhitas, right? So we should understand that even according to Shankara Vedanta itself, the Vedas are the Vedas are the Shruti Vakyas, are which are the revelations, and which are Apurushaya, right? So which are the highest form of revelations, actually. So from that revelations, okay, um, Badrayana Maharishi came up with the Vedanta Sutra. Some call him it as Vyasa, some say that Vyasa is different from Badrayana, Badrayana is different from Vyasa, whatever it is, some X, some personality called X, okay, created very cryptic aphorisms, okay, which is not even a sentence long, which is only phrases, and these were created for his own taming of his students and disciples. So it was more like a ready reckoner. And based on that, people started creating commentaries, because it was too crypt. They needed commentaries to explain what that cryptic sutra means. Okay, and that's how these bhashyas developed. Similarly, if you take the Bhagavad Gita has all the flavors of karma yoga is there, bhakti yoga is there, dhyana yoga is there, jnana yoga is there. Okay, so and each bhashyakara wants to explain it, trying to prioritize one over the other, or the way he understands it. Okay, while we have the actual Shruti statements, which are beyond, which are considered to be Apurashaya, we'll have a separate discussion of what is Apurashaya, but let us assume that all Vedantis accept it as Apurashaya, irrespective of which darshana within Vedanta they belong to. Okay, so that Apurushaya Veda is being interpreted by these Bhashyakaras. So what the Bhashyakaras come up with itself is not Apurushaya, it is very much Purushaya. And when it is very much Purushaya, it means that it has the interpretation of the Bhashyakara, who is nothing but an Acharya. That's why Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya are more considered as Acharyas, even in their own paramparas, in their own lineages, right? We don't call us Shankara Maharishi, right? So though we call him as Jagat Guru, we don't call him as a Maharishi. So he is not the first recipient of this direct Vedic thing. At least that is what that is what the common conventional belief is, right? But I have my reservations on the on what is Apurushaya means, and whether this Apurushaya only corresponds to the static content of that Vedas, which was revealed some 10,000 years back, or whatever those Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharva Veda, right? Is that a finite set of texts? That is what is called revelations, and after this, in the last 10,000 years, there was nothing else revealed by God directly. So that those are separate debates, but even assuming that those are the only finite set of the mantra of the Veda. And so again we have the mantra, then we have the Aranyaka, then we have the Brahmana, then we have the Upanishads. So while everybody accepts the mantra as revelations, but there are again debates whether the Brahmana and the Aranyaka portions are also same revelations, because they get into a very liturgical or the ritualistic mode, and it is based on that space and time or that historic context of doing it. And again we come to Upanishads, where it is more rarer. So the debate of what is Apurushaya among the Veda Samhitas itself is actually an open-ended debate for centuries, right? Not between you and me or somebody within the WhatsApp group or anywhere, right? It has been a debate, and there is no reconciliation on saying this or that, right? Certain Mimamsakaras and Nyayayikas or the Vedantas have their own way of saying what is Apurushaya, what is Shruti, what is Smriti, and even if something is Smriti, they considered it as Shruti. For example, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, technically it is a Smriti, but still it is rated as high as a Shruti because it is again believed that it is the words of the Parabrahman as Avadara Purusha of Mahavishnu. So, in the name and form and Guna Alangara of Sri Krishna, right? So, so we take, we consider it as the word of God itself, right? So it is Krishna Paramatma who is nothing but God who do so that itself then it becomes so Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita to be specifically whether it is Apurushaya. In my opinion, that is also Apurushaya because Sri Krishna himself has revealed it. But textually, if you look at it, then it was actually Vedavyasa who actually compiled or who's the technical author or the compiler, however you want, or the poet for the Mahabharata. But even if you go by that analogy, the Vedas was revealed. I mean, the Mahabharata was revealed to Vyasa, not directly. Again, there was an intervention of a divine form, like according to the narratives of the scriptures itself, right? Veda Vyasa was instructed by none other Ganesha, as long as Ganesha was speaking it aloud, the Mahabharata. So from his highest level of para to Vaikari Shabda, so para Madhyama. Para Pashyanti Madhyama and the Vaikarika Shabda, which was heard by Veda Vyasa, and he was a scribe. He scribed it, right? So he was scribing it. So in that way, again, if you take the Mahabharata, also can say it is as an Apurushaya. Okay. So because it came from non-human source, which is through Ganesha. Okay. And Veda Vyasa himself, they say, is an Avadara of Mahavishnu. Okay, so in that context also it is Apurushaya. So where do we draw the line between whether it is Purushaya or Apurushaya? The songs of Alvars and Nayanmars, they say in their songs, it is not me I am singing, it is through me the God is singing, right? So that that itself is, so there is no airtight finite set of texts which is saying that this is Purushaya or this is Apurushaya. That is my opinion. But even if you take only the Veda Samhitas, particularly the Veda Mantras and the Upanishads, the first section and the last section of the Vedas as the Apurushaya Shrutis. So there is a revelation in terms of a Shruti, right? So somebody hears it, but they don't hear it through their ears; they hear it through the third eye. That is why it is called as Pashyanti Vak. Okay, so the third eye is the they call it as Jnanakan, right? The Divya Chakshus. So they hear it, and that's why they are called as a Rishi Muni, who hears it and then who contemplates on it, and then who propagates it to the next level of in the Guru Parampara, and that's how the Shruti gets spread. Okay, so Darshana is basically a flow, which I would call it as a Shaktinipada, borrowing the concept from the Agamanta world, where the divine truth, like the flow of Ganges, descends down and is revealed as a higher realm of mantric vision. So that's why it's called as a mantra vision, mantra drishti. So it is mantra, which is a shabda, and it is also drishti because you see it with the third eye. Okay, so any darshana is of that form. Okay, so the darshana cannot be finite set. So Adi Shankara, before Adi Shankara also there were darshanas, there were rishis. Okay, before somebody wrote the Bhashya also, there were so many humans who were contemplating on God through their gurus, or there was a Guru Parambara, or the Vedas were available to them, where they were there. Okay, before somebody learning the Bhashya and the Tikas, um, or the entire compilation literatures of these, right? So we have Vivarna, we have Trikas, we have Bhashyas, we have Vartikas. So even before anybody wrote it, even before Adi Shankara was ever born, see in this lineage of Sanatana Dharma, uh, we can at the max read to say 2000 years or even 3000 years of Adi Shankara. So before that also Sanatana Dharma was there. Before that also Advaita was there. Similarly, can we say that Ramanuja started Vishishta Advaita? No, before that also it was there. Okay, or Tattvavada started by Madhvacharya. It was not there because I mean it was always there. Truth is always eternal, right? Whether we, and that's why we call it as discovery. We know in every darshana is a discovery. It is already there. At some point of time, somebody discovers it and then doctrinates it. So when we doctrinates it, it gets more formalized. But whatever is getting doctrinated, right, that is a very, very small snapshot of what is directly getting revealed. Okay, so there are a lot of revelations which are not formally documented. We don't have a metaphysical or philosophical um, structure to it, yet it has been a revelation, and it has been passed on from generation to generation, which today's marketing we call it as a word of mouth marketing, where earlier it was like from through the guru, through the shishya, it was always been passed. So any recorded commentaries or recorded explanations, we can't trace back beyond a few thousand years from now. Okay, so let us not take a very static view of these darshanas or the bhashyas. So before Adi Shankara, there were numerous darshanas. After Adi Shankara, there are numerous darshanas. So today we have so many people coming up with their own version of darshanas. Nothing wrong about it. Okay, so somebody says that as long as it is Vedic, I will accept it. So everybody claims it to be Vedic, right? So when Adi Shankara came up with this Kevala Advaita, he says that that is the Vedic interpretation that represents his darshana or his viewpoint, is the only representation of the Vedic wisdom, right? So that was a contention that he made. So anything beyond that is not there. Then some 1000+ years from there, Ramanuja came out. Even at that time itself, there was Bhaskaracharya. He had his perspective, which differentiated from Shankara in certain aspects. Okay, then Ramanuja Acharya came. He says that the Vedas are there. I also agree the same Vedas, the same Upanishads, and all these things. But my interpretation of my darshana, what is revealed to me or what appeals to me, is a different interpretation of that. So, and he claims that Adi Shankara did not understand Vedas as much the way the original Vedic rishis meant. Okay, and that is why he has created his own bhashyas, and in the initial phases of his bhashya, he came up with the Purva Paksha Siddhanta kind of deliberation, the polemical deliberations. He identified seven major contradictions, or which he feels they are the points of contradiction from what is meant in the original Vedas. So he says that Shankara deviated from the Vedas because he was influenced by, say, the Buddhist school of thought, or whatever it is, right? So then there was then he had his own Guru Parambara. He gave it to Manavala Mamunigal and Vedanta Desigar, and it forms an hierarchy. So now Ramanujar itself is 1000-year-old now, right? So, and he has his own lineage. Similarly, we have the Tattvavada. So post 500 years or whatever after Ramanuja, Sri Madhvacharya came, and he came and said that, I mean, Adi Shankara, I agree with Ramanuja in saying that Adi Shankara did not fully reflect what the Vedas say. But I disagree with Ramanuja also in the way he is defining the Vishishtadvaita, where the relationship between God and man, the qualified non-dualism, and I have my own darshana, which I feel is the highest or the truest expression of the same Vedas. So Vedas remaining the same. Each acharya coming with this own interpretation and saying the other is wrong and mine is correct. Okay. Similarly, we have Vallabhacharya. Similarly, we have the Nimbarkacharya. We have various other schools, Jnana Bhikshu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So already we have between this 2000 years plus, we have so many branches. Okay, each claiming that their representation or interpretation of the Vedas is the copyrighted, patented version which reflects the original. Okay, so this argument within the Vedanta itself is like this, right? Now, if you take one specific branch of Vedanta, which is the Shankara Advaita Vedanta, there again we already saw that there are different sub schools within that. Okay, whether it called as Ajativada, whether you call it Drishti Srishti Drishti, okay, all that we spoke about, Pratibimba Vada or Avacheda Vada, and all these things are again they are trying to establish that one of these sub schools is more truer than the other. Okay, so for example, somebody would say that Adi Shankara never meant anything related to Pratibimba Vada, or the Vivarna school is completely wrong. So they are completely misunderstood, or they have fabricated it, they have phantomized it, they have fabricated it. Somebody will say the Avacheda Vada is something is fabricated. Somebody will say the any other school, right? Is fabricated. The Drishti Srishti Vada, the Srishti Drishti Vada. Somebody will say that Drishti Srishti is the highest thing. All other things are secondary, or is not a true reflection of Adi Shankara. So I mean, this goes on endless. And 100 years from now, we'll have a few more versions on that and each branches. Okay, so whether this is wrong or right, my personal opinion, it is every see that is why these are all not called as, these darshanas are not directly called as apurushaya shrutis, right? These darshanas are still the reflects the bhashyakaras or the acharyas view of it, right? So, and these acharyas are not normal human beings like you or me. They don't take philosophy from an academic perspective. Somebody wants to say that as long as I'm only looking at it as an academic perspective, right? And when it comes to academic perspective, there is you just see it as a textual analysis, right? These acharyas are all established acharyas, where they don't take only only the inferential or the what to say the textual analysis, right? So only the mimamsa part of it, right? So their inquiry, it includes both their anubhava as well as the analysis of the text, right? So it is not mere hermeneutics, right? When you say, when you an academician, like if a foreigner can come and look at the Vedas, like how the Max Muller did, or the huge European colonialists came, right? They looked at it very academically, and they said that this is what the mantra session has nothing to do with philosophy. It is all only zoology, and and it is all there is no single god, there are thousands of gods there. Okay, so it is pantheistic. So there is no single god. Similarly, there is no philosophy there in the mantra section, because they look at it as a scholarly research, where they see some text, and from that text they draw their interpretations, right? So one can look at it as an academic exercise and keep on playing gymnastics with these words and word meanings, and applying the Nyaya framework for these word meanings, and saying that within this boundary, this is what is there. So this could be an exercise. This is very important. I'm not trying to take away its importance, but that is not a sole criteria for a darshana, for the validity of a darshana, right? We all know that anything that is textually available is not, would be, I mean, I would consider it is a very smaller portion of the wisdom which will get revealed either only through a guru or only through the divine grace, which is not recorded anywhere. So there's always, they will call it as, we have to read between the lines, right? So the lines, the literal lines, or even the hermeneutics around the literal lines alone can suffice from an academic perspective, but it cannot be a spiritual sadhana. See, the academicians, they are not interested in spiritual sadhana, right? He looks at it from a very objective perspective. Being objective is very good, but the problem is that we claim to be objective, but we are all very subject to one school of thought, right? So so we are not technically very objective because we are biased to a school. So somebody called that the other day that we are either if you take Paramatmananda, we get influenced by Paramatmananda. Yes, somebody gets influenced. Somebody gets influenced by Siddhayananda. Somebody might get influenced influenced by some other acharya, right? Chinmayananda, for example. And somebody by SSS, and somebody by Sureshwaracharya, somebody by Prakash Atman, somebody by Prakashananda. Okay, so we can take our chosen, or whatever our aptitude and attitude aligns with as our darshana, as our preferred darshana. See, that is what Sanatana Dharma is, a marga. It is not just philosophy for him, because in one more I think one acharya says that Adi Shankara is just a philosopher, right? He's not a philosopher like J. Krishnamurti, I mean, like Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, or like Immanuel Kant or anything, right? He is more than that, right? So that is why we worship him. Nobody worships Immanuel Kant, right? Nobody worships philosophers like Francis Bacon, because they know, I mean, what is where the scope of philosophy ends, right? So philosophy is an intellectual exercise. So Adi Shankara was not just an intellect, right? He was much more than intellect. Not only Adi Shankara, if you take Ramanujacharya, you take Madhvacharya, or all these acharyas, that we worship them. So that's why we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Acharya Devo Bhava. So that is why we eulogize them, we create statues of them, we worship them, we garland them, because for us Guru Bhakti and Deva Bhakti are the same. In fact, in a sense, Guru Bhakti is higher than Deva Bhakti. That's what our Sanatana Dharma said. So we can't reduce our acharyas to a philosophers. Okay, while we know that our acharyas are more than a philosopher, we should also understand that these acharyas are also giving an interpretational aspect. Okay, none of them are wrong, because that is how they have received it. Okay, that's why they are acharya. Their point is to create a governance model. They want to create acharya is based on the term acharya derived from the word charya, right? Conduct. So they are disciplining agents. So they are gurus who are helping us discipline us to a focused school of thought. Okay, so focus school of philosophy. That is why they are acharyas. Okay, and like that we have multiple acharyas. So we have multiple disciplines. We have discipline for physics, we have discipline for chemistry, we have discipline for biology. Within physics itself, we have classical physics, we have relativistic physics, we have quantum physics, now we have digital physics, right? Each of them have own separate disciplines, and somebody is specializing on one of these or more of these. Okay, so acharya's scope is to discipline them to a specific marga or specific path. Okay, so while a rishi, he takes a role of a grand reveler to the world through an acharya. Okay, so and acharya gives a very focused marga to us. So we take one of the multiple margas, infinite margas. All roads lead to God, right? That is what the Vedas also proclaim, right? So it's like all the branches of a river ultimately go and reach the oceans. Okay, so like that, every darshana through an acharya is a marga for the sadhaka. It is a part of a sadhana marga. So it is like I want to reach destination B. I am at A. So my spiritual quotient at level A. This is my spiritual maturity level. I want to reach a destination B. So from me to go from A to B is what my old religious exercises. Okay, religion is a manifestation of the divinity already in man. Swami Vivekananda says. So this religious manifestation is the pilgrim's progress. I as a sadhaka become a pilgrim and I progress through a marga. Okay, because I want to go to Sabarimala, there are hundreds of ways through which I reach out to Sabarimala. But what is the way I personally take? Maybe through my guru, right? So in the Sabarimala cult or practice, there is something called as a Guru Swami. So he will take me through one path. Okay, so from Chennai, I want to go to Sabarimala. He will say that, okay, let us take this path and go. Okay, and so we take that path and we reach. So like that, from destination A to destination, from source to target destinations, there are multiple ways. Okay, so even if you take operation research or you take geometry or mathematics, so there are multiple ways from one point and another point can be connected. But what our acharyas give us is, they give us the shortest path, which in operation research is called as a critical path. So whether in those who have studied operation research as part of their engineering or as part of their bachelor's or master's degree or whatever it is, right? There is something called as an operations research discipline, where we find out which is the most critical path for that particular transaction to happen. Among many paths, that is the best or the most efficient path. Okay, so like that, we always see is that in physics, that the straight line is the shortest path between two points, right? While 2 points can be connected in multiple ways, the shortest distance is the straight line. Okay, so what appears to be straight to us is determined by the critical path method, which our guru customizes it for us and says that this is the marga, this is the path which best suits you. So once we come from a specific tradition or sampradaya, we just follow that marga and then we are supposed to reach that goal. So now I am a sadhaka, I take a path. So I take a path which my guru has instructed to me, and based on his guidelines, I follow that path. Now I am going, I am taking them, I've been traveling for say a couple of days. It's a long journey. So when I keep traveling for a couple of days, I have a path to follow and I am following that path. While I have a path to follow and following that path, I have still not reached the destination and I still do not know whether this path is going to take me to the destination, but I have a quantum leap of faith because I trust my Guru Swami, and my Guru Swami says that this is the path best suited for you. This is your critical path. So you follow that. So I, by my faith system, okay, I don't know yet. If I don't know that, it means that I've already reached the destination, right? So I follow my guru, okay, and take that path. When I myself do not know for sure that whether this path leads me there, but I go by faith that this path will lead me there, how can I make a comment that somebody else known to me is taking a different path to reach the Sabarimala? Okay, I am on my way, and through the way, I myself haven't reached the destination. Somebody is there, but I keep on saying that that path will not take you to the destination. That path will not take you to destination. This is the best path. This is the best path. So this is the best path, but this is the best path for you, not for that person. For that person, his guru would have given him a path that would lead him there, right? So there is no one single path. There's no one size that fits all. So this is the great rahasya which we need to understand. But this is an open secret, right? Even common sense is enough for us to understand it. So we don't need to study so many bhashyas, vyakaranas, and Vatikas or Tikas and Tika after Tika in this 2000 years of take any darshana, or 1000 years or even 500 years of darshana, there will be so much of literature. So one doesn't need to learn all these things to understand this common sense logic, is that the marga is for a specific person who has chosen a specific path. Okay. And we are now talking about a destination. Let us talk about the destination. Unlike geographical destination, which is as a physical distance, we are talking about our destination in spirituality is the moksha of the highest jnana, which is the Brahman. And we all being Advaitins, I mean, at least most of them in this group, they claim to be Advaitins, and we claim to be Advaitins. We all know that there is only one reality, and it is the same reality, right? So how does a path make a difference? The path is just a vyavaharika, right? You can call it as apavada or over. So you are in Adhyaropa, you need an apavada. But end of the day, path A is better than path B itself is the highest form of ignorance, because we are still not imbibed that Advaitic culture in us and saying that, sir, any path is a path. So you're already in the destination, because Advaita, the challenge with Advaita, on the one point of say, they simply shift their goals. At one point of time, they talk about the Paramarthika Satya. So there is no need for realization. You're already realized. All that Gyan we will talk. But at the same time, we'll go and say that, no, Sureshwaracharya was much better than Padmapadacharya, or Padmapadacharya was better than Mandana Mishra, or Mandana Mishra was better than Vachaspasamithya, and all of these things are better than Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. Similarly, for Ramanuja, it's this one, right? Everybody keeps holding on to their pet ideas. Okay, so which we will call it as idiosyncrasy. We need to have a loyalty to a darshana, to a prakriya, to a marga. That's fine. But taking it a very judgmental call, saying that this is better and this than that. Why this is better than that? Somebody will say that this is more logically explained, this is more rationally explained, that is why this is more better. So logically, the other explanations or the darshanas failed the logical litmus test. Let us take it objectively. Logic, even if you take logical yardstick, if you apply the formal logic or logical yardstick, which the larger part of the world, of the academic world, the scientific world, the academic world, and the logical world applies, none of the darshanas that we talk about is universally accepted. The logic of in Shankara Bhashya, the logic stated in Ramanuja Bhashya, the logic stated in Madhva Bhashya, none of them will follow the will pass the litmus test in a global standard, right? So if logic is a universal standard, and then there will be no contradiction at all, right? So our logic itself is confined to my way of thinking, and the right, it is focused on my marga. In my marga, which is say Shankaradvaita, within Shankaradvaita, which is say based on Drishti Srishtivada. So for me, the logic explained by Prakashananda, or anybody who echoes Drishti Srishtivada will seem very appealing. Okay, whereas that of the Vivarnavada, or whereas that of the Vichedavada, or whatever sub schools there, may not be logically appealing. So this logical appealing is a very personal way of taking it, right? It is not a universal standard. There is no standard litmus test for applying these reasoning. If you even today we have all this reasoning abilities through LLMs, right? So is there any standard yardstick for this logic? Does any scientifically approved process for evaluation of these dialectical logic of Purvapaksha and Siddhanta of each of these darshanas? Do anybody scientifically testify these? No, right? It is more of a faith. For me, what Adi Shankara says is perfectly valid and logic. So whatever Bhamatikara says is perfectly valid and logical. So whatever Padmapada says may be perfectly valid and logical. Similarly for a Tattvavadin, similarly for a Vishishta Vadin, right? So we are all taking a very subjective perspective of logic and calling it as very objective. Okay, so nothing wrong about it. For us, this logic holds good. Okay, and every acharya has given a very, very, very logical uh, justification for his darshana, right? So somebody in this group itself keeps on saying, nowadays he doesn't say, but earlier he keeps on saying, in Bhakti Marga, those who darshanas which subscribe to Bhakti Marga, there is no logic at all, there is no reasoning at all, there is no philosophy at all. It is like the very statement which the Western Indologists say, that in the mantra portion of the Vedas, there is no philosophy, there is no logic, there is nothing there, it is just eulogy, just Bhakti, right? Today in 2020-26 also, some of these who claim themselves to be Vedantins, Shankara followers of Shankara Advaita, they also make the claim that wherever there is Bhakti schools, it is only Bhakti. But if you take the Tattvavada, you take Ramanuja's Vada, there is so much of reasoning and logic in the text, right? So in their polemical works, there is logic. So just because we are blind to it does not mean there is not logic. You may accept that logic or you reject that logic, but simply giving a blanket statement that there is no logic there is not. Similarly, if you take Saiva Siddhanta, okay, which is again a Bhakti school of the Nayanmar, so there is a Jnana portion of it, which is part of um, the philosophical aspect of Saiva Siddhanta. So they call it as Maikanda Shastram. Maikanda means truth revealing Shastras. Mai means truth. Kanda means revealing. Truth revealing Shastras, which is very philosophical, right? Similarly, even if you take Pushti Marga, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's school, which is one of the youngest in this hierarchy, also has its own logical scope, right? But beyond logic, there is bhakti, there is karma, there is dhyana, everything is there. It's a bundle. So I see two extremes within the Advaita schools, right? On one set of people, they are very ritual oriented. They'll only worship the Vigraha of Adi Shankara or Mahapariyava or the current Pitadhipatis, the Mahasannidhanams of the respective um, mutts they belong to, the pitams they belong to, and they'll only recite the slogan, they'll do japa, they'll get into a ritual mode, but they'll confine themselves to the ritual mode. So most of the people never get to the jnana marga, so never would have never studied the bhashyas to the extent that is required for Vedantin, right? They would have. On the other side, I see people who are only intellectually oriented. So who take the text, take it very literally, to try to do all the gymnastics around the text, but they don't want to give importance to karma, the ritual portion of it, or the bhakti portion of it, and they look at Adi Shankara as just a philosopher, and we are just looking at as a philosophy. So it is both these schools are very reductive in their approach, right? So, but reality is the darshanas are very holistic. That is why in any traditional schools, all these forms have to be given importance. But unfortunately, even in some of these amnayas, traditional amnayas, more of ritual is given importance than the philosophies, and that is why maybe the new age Advaita schools and Vedantas have come out and started creating space for the philosophical outreach. That's why we have Chinmayananda, we have Dayananda Saraswati, and we have SSS and all these things, where they start giving reviving the philosophical interest. So both these extremes are not the real holistic is involving all the four margas, right? Bhakti, karma, dhyana, jnana, right? So that is a holistic approach. And to the question of whether new darshanas can come, whether we like it or not, new darshanas will keep coming. Okay, say Sri Aurobindo has his own way of defining Advaita. Say we call it as integral Advaita. So then we have Sri Ramakrishna's Advaita. So their school of Advaita is again is very unique to them. We have Ramana Maharishi's Advaita, which is he doesn't get into all these polemics and all that. So in the last 100 years itself, we would have seen that there are a lot of various darshanas. The next 100 years, we will see a lot more and lot more following for them. Okay, so these darshanas are going back to the Aprushaya and Jnana flow is not restricted to the beginning of a yuga, right? It is there all through the yugas. Certain jnani, certain souls who can converse at a higher wavelength receive the darshana even today. Okay, and they create their own branch of the Sanatana Dharma as a specific darshana, and there is a following for it. Okay, so this is how Sanatana Dharma has stood the test of time. Okay, so 2000 years before 2000 years there was no Shankara, but still Sanatana Dharma survives. Still, then also people attained moksha. Even before Prasthana Traya was there, people attained moksha. Even before Tattvavada is there, people were Dvaitins. Okay, so it is all knowledge is an eternity. It get discovered, it get revealed on time basis. Okay, so the very question of the confined or finite set. This is what differentiate between Sanatana Dharma in Hinduism and the very closed loop approach of the Abrahamic religions, where they keep claiming that the Bible or the Torah, the Old Testament, or the Bible, the New Testament, and the Gospels around it, or the Quran, are the finite set, right? Anything beyond that is not considered. So only this, even after 2000 years of Jesus Christ or so, only whatever he said is a revelation. After that, nobody got revealed. No truth was revealed to anybody, right? Or before that, the Torah, right? And now the Quran says, I mean, this is the final revelation. Okay, so while these are all revelation, I personally feel everything is, Quran is one of the greatest revelations. Okay, but it is for revelation for a specific audience and for a specific context. Okay, similarly, our darshanas are also revelation for a specific audience and specific context. So we taking a very uh, what to say, egoistic stand of saying this is better or that is better is only an aspect of another aspect of our ignorance. Okay, so that is what I would say. So truth is infinite and it reaches us in infinite ways. Okay, with this I stop here. Hari Om, and I'm open for discussion.